You are watching Channeladriantv.
Yo, YouTube, what up? Welcome back to Channeladriantv. But before we get into today's video, y'all know what y'all need to do. Subscribe to the channel, like and comment on all the videos. Also follow me on Rumble where I post, and also support the Room 1031 podcast I do with Maurice. And if you have anything you want me to react to, sports, the dynamics between men and women, or an Ask Adrian question about your own personal life, please don't hesitate to reach out. You can hit me up on one of my social media platforms. They'll be pinned in the description. Welcome to a Sunday service episode. Now, before I get into this episode, let me explain. I'm not the most super religious version. This is kind of my own interpretation of church to get you motivation through the week and some of the trials and tribulations that I've went through, and I know people go through as well. Because you may look on my channel and some of the content I do speak about may be sacrilegious, or you may say he can't be a Christian doing content or speaking about those certain things. So this channel may not be for you. But for this Sunday service, I wanted to focus on depression, and I notice a lot of people become depressed when they're grinding or going through the struggle and pitfalls of trying to get closer to that goal, whether it's trying to get a new job so you can make more money to provide for your family, whether it's trying to kick a bad habit, or in other words, tough time that you're going through and you're trying to persevere through that. And a lot of times people can develop bad habits while experiencing that or go through depression. Now, I have 6 pointers to why you shouldn't become depressed and use that hard time to kind of motivate you and push through whatever struggle you're going to, because I promise whatever you're trying to get through to get to the end, it's going to be well worth it if you just stick and pay attention to these 6 points. Point number 1 is you're only going to grow in discomfort. For example, like I did not take public speaking class. I didn't take video editing class. I didn't go to SCAD. I didn't go to a fine art school. So you watching me making these videos, learning on the run, learning how to edit these videos, learning what pitch and what tone to use with this microphone, learning what thumbnails to use on my videos at the very beginning, because you could look at my channel I've had, I think, for 4 years now. You could look at the very beginning, putting myself in this situation. It was uncomfortable at the very beginning because I didn't know what I was doing. Some of the videos I were putting out were trash. Some could still say my videos are still trash to this day, but still learning and trying to evolve and get as much information that I can possible. But the only way I'm going to learn, the only way I'm going to get positive feedback to see if I'm performing better or if I need to improve is by putting myself in these uncomfortable situations. Just like you're watching me right now with this video, and the same thing applies to life. And whatever you're trying to do, passing that bar exam so you could be a lawyer, passing that MCAT so you could be a doctor, whatever it is, the only way you're going to grow and hit your goals is you got to make yourself be uncomfortable, and that's where the most growth happens. And point number 2 is it's going to build character and resilience, because I guarantee you your favorite movie star, your favorite entrepreneur, your favorite athlete, or even somebody you look up to in your own personal circle or work circle, most of the time people go through trials and tribulations and tough times. And during those tough times, if they don't quit and persevere through, they're going to build that resilience and character. Because I've had people ask me, Adrian, how come you never get down? Or how come you never get depressed? It's because I understand life is all ebbs and flows. There are going to be high times, there are going to be low times. But the only thing that shouldn't change is your attitude in working through them. Working through the high times and working through the low times. The bad thing is most people, when they hit the low times, they stop working and they're never able to get out of that rut to get back to that high time. So whatever depression, or if you're let down because you haven't hit a goal yet, you have to develop that mindset. You're going to have to keep working through it. Look at my videos. Some of my videos do well. Some of my videos don't do well, but I still continue to put out the content. You're going to have to learn how to fight through that, because it's going to build character and resilience. And the big thing is the resilience is because if I make a video and it doesn't get a lot of views, it doesn't hurt my feelings. I go back to the drawing board and make another video. And number 3, I know this is cliche to say, but once you make it and once you hit your goal and become successful, it makes it way better off in the end if you work through it. Because we've all heard these stories of people who were handed down money and cars and they didn't appreciate it. And what happened? They spent all that money and they crashed that car that they was given to them from their parents. Even if I don't have a son or daughter, but even if I did, they would have to work for everything like I did. That's one of the best things about these videos is I'm showing the groundwork. When you get it and once you achieve that goal, whether that's a 6-figure salary, 100K subscribers, whatever it is. Once you hit that goal, it feels that much better that you actually persevere. Now, it may not sound fun now, but once you do get to that other goal, I promise you it will. It's the same thing. Think of somebody who is losing weight. Once they hit that goal and they see the changes that their body made, it's worth it in the end. But during the grind, during the process of fighting all these trials and tribulations, it's not going to feel like fun. But I guarantee you, if you persevere through it, at the very end, the success is going to feel that much better. For the fourth point, one thing most people don't realize until you get older, you learn the most going through the process of, okay, for example, take me, okay, how should I edit this? When should I drop this video? Okay, am I speaking too loud on the microphone, or is this a good camera angle? In other words, the process is where you learn the most. That's why if you think about it, when people become successful, what happens? They're still sad and they can still fall into depression, because the beauty is actually in the journey, is actually in the process. That's why you have to embrace it. And that's one of the great things about these videos, that I'm leaving a trail that I could rewatch these videos and see myself going through the grind and the process. And to go back to point number 2, that resilience, that character, it doesn't come from you receiving that goal. It comes through the process, the grind, the day and day grind of trying to reach your goal. That's where it comes. And point number 5, this world is very competitive. Everybody is trying to do something that you want to do. And there's only so many spots who get that top spot, because I do believe there is enough for everyone to eat, but I don't believe there's enough room for everybody to eat at the very top. So while you're going through this tough time of the trials and tribulations of the daily grind, it separates you from the people who are just curious about success and really don't want it. Because I do a few things, and I'm glad that people, well, I don't want to say glad, but I don't feel bad if people want to quit making YouTube videos, quit thinking about other business ideas, because that makes it easier for me and for me to become successful. So you need to realize that someone is in the same situation that you are, but it's either going to be you or that person that's going to put forth the extra effort, who's going to fight through the trials and tribulations, or who's not going to let depression hold them back. Because time and time again, we see the same story. 2 people had the same vision, same goal. One person stopped, but the other person kept going. And what happened? They meet again 5 or 10 years later, and they found out that person stuck with it and actually achieved their goal. And then the other person who didn't starts to regret that why they stopped. The same thing here. That grind, that grind and going through that process, the daily rigors of every single day, it's going to separate you. And at the end of the day, as long as you reach your goal, other people's opinions shouldn't bother you anyway. So you should only be focused on trying to hit that end goal, because I guarantee you there's someone out there who wants it just as bad as you. They may be willing to take days off where you're not, and that could put you over the edge. And the last point is, every struggle is a setup for the next level. So every process, every grind, it's teaching you the basic principles, the character, the resilience, necessary skills to go up to the next level. Think about it. How can you manage 1 million if you can't manage 50K, 60K, 70K, 80K, 90K? And you see why I'm going with that. And that's with anything in life. You need to start out small, start from the ground floor, build the necessary skills, resilience, character, so you don't become depressed when your problems become more, because you're going to run into different problems. Problems you had at 1K are going to be different at 1 million. But if you don't know how to manage and handle the problems at 100K, how are you going to manage the problems at 1 million? So that's what that means. In other words, each trial and tribulation you're going through, it's setting you up for the next level. And each level is going to be harder, especially if you want to get to the top, especially if you want to have goals like myself. For example, my goal is to at least make 100K each month. That's one of my biggest goals. So with that, that's going to come a lot of learning, a lot of trial and tribulation, a lot of trial and error. But at the end of the day, it's preparing me for the next step. And hopefully you take these 6 points and apply them in your life. And don't let what you're going through, just because you're not there yet, don't let that give you depression. Because I guarantee you, let's say you hit all your goals, you have all this money, you're well off, you don't have to worry about anything, but you see those same people go through depression because they're forgetting this one big thing. Process and journey, that's the most important part. So while you're going through your own process and journey and going through the daily grind, men and women, embrace it. This is another Sunday service episode, and I will see y'all in another video.